Joining us today, former NFL defensive end Devon Still. In 2014, Devon's daughter Leah was diagnosed with neuroblastoma stage 4 cancer. At that point, Devon put his football career on hold. He put his daughter first. And today, very happy to say Leah is cancer free. We'll talk about Devon's journey, Leah's journey, the family's journey, his great work through Still in the Game, a new Still who is on the way, and the V Foundation's wine celebration event, which will be in Napa Valley this August. It's going to be the Devon and Coach K show, so can't wait for that. Welcome, Devon.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you here and look forward to a great discussion today. So, congratulations are in order. You're going to be a family of five.
It's going to be crazy. It's no more man-to-man defense. We're going to have to run a zone defense to be able to manage our household. But we're excited just to expand our family and continue to spread our love.
No doubt about it. And coming from someone who, my wife and I, we went from one to three. So
Oh,
we went from 2-on-1 D to that zone D,
right.
and you will love it. I mean, there's going to be times where obviously it's very busy and you're going to be very
Right.
tired, but
Right.
you're going to love it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So Leah is your oldest at 12. Aria will be 3 in August. Is that right?
Yes.
And now another still on the way. So that's awesome. And you had shared, a few years ago that you were scared to bring another child into the world due to Leah's cancer journey. Why did you feel that way at that time, and what got you past that?
Yes, I think, I can speak on behalf of a lot of parents who have a child battling cancer. A lot of the times we look within and we start blaming ourselves for the reason why, our child has cancer. Maybe there was something wrong with me genetically that I passed on to my child, or maybe I fed them the wrong foods. And I found myself, going down that downward spiral where I was really blaming myself for the reason why Leah had cancer, although this wasn't genetically passed on. And I was just scared to bring another child into the world because I didn't want to go through that experience again. I didn't want to have another child that had to walk through that experience such that Leah did. So I had to do a lot of inner work just to process the negative thoughts that were going on in my mind. And I had to learn how to let go of them and just be able to take back control of my life. And then me and my wife, we decided to go ahead and try to conceive, and we had Aria. And then as last year, as we tried to expand our family even more, we had went through another loss where my wife had a miscarriage. So we took another about a year break just to mentally prepare ourselves or to heal ourselves from what we experienced. And we got the news about 8 weeks ago that we were actually having another child. So it's just been a blessing.
It really is. There's nothing better than kids. There really
Oh
isn't.
no.
It changes
They
your
keep
life,
you they
doesn't it?
keep you young, or they can make you grow old really fast depending on how they act. So
And it's so true. Don't you find that you end up looking at everything differently once you have kids? It's through their lens and their eyes more than your own.
yeah, you can kind of look back and see what your parents went through. It's
Yeah.
really interesting because it's like either you gave your parents a hard time and now your kids are giving you a hard time, or it's just amazing to watch and see a human grow and understanding the influence that you have on their life in order to grow up and be flourishing adults.
And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. Part of your work through Still in the Game. You provide great parental tips and love your Instagram for that. I've
Thank
found
you.
myself asking some questions of how I parent and could be better based on the advice you're sharing. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Take us through Leah's journey. She's diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. At that point, you're playing football, you're in the NFL, and you say to yourself, sports is not more important than my daughter. It's not more important than my family. Take us through that decision, that time in your life when you were just coming off of a back surgery and you were sleeping in a hospital bed next to Leah every night.
Yeah. What's interesting? When I made that decision to really put football on the sidelines and really focus on my daughter, a lot of people would say to me, man, that had to be a tough decision. Like, you're living the American dream, you're in an NFL, you're making millions of dollars. It had to be hard to put that on the sideline and really focus on your family. But for me, it actually wasn't. when I was in college, I heard an interview between Oprah and Dave Chappelle where she had told him that if you don't know who you are before the money and fame comes, then you'll never know who you are. And I remember that day I sat down and I stopped being goal driven and I started being value driven, right? Because when people are goal driven, they're willing to step out of bounds in order to achieve certain goals. But when you're value driven, you won't step outside of your values in order to reach your goals. And for me, I really valued my family. The whole reason why I wanted to make it to the NFL wasn't, to reach some childhood dream or to brag about me making it to the NFL or having a bunch of money, but it was about shifting my family's life, right? Being able to expose them to different things that this world has to offer and give them different experiences. And if I didn't have my daughter to experience that with, then there was no point of me playing football or playing in the NFL. So I wanted to do everything I could to help nurse my daughter back to health so that we can just enjoy life together.
And how, as the today, you're able to do that, right?
It,
Thanks in part to the
yeah,
commitment that everyone put forward.
yeah, it's been great. It's really taken a team effort from me, my family, friends, the Bengals organization, the Bengals fans, people from all over the world, doctors, researchers, people just that had the courage to really step up and fight for those who find it hard to fight for themselves as they're battling cancer. And now Leah's 6 years cancer free. We get to enjoy all those things that I was in fear that we may lose, the experiences that I wanted to have with my child as she grows up. Now we're able to enjoy those moments, and they mean even more now because they were at risk before.
And what is the typical day for Leah? A typical day for a 12-year-old? What does she love to do,
There
and,
is
and what is she
nothing
passionate about?
typical when you have a 12-year-old. Every day is a brand new day that comes with a different challenges. But throughout the school years, just getting her ready for school and just preparing her mentally for some of the challenges that she's going to face. During adolescence, kids go through a lot of different changes, whether it be physically, psychologically, socially, just everything. So just being able to help her navigate uh, through those set of challenges, because a lot of people think like when you make it through cancer, you can just make it through anything, right? So you just think that your child is resilient, that there's not a lot of things that I need to do because you already been through the worst of the worst. But every experience is new. Every experience brings on different levels of stress, and just being able to work as a team with my wife to really prepare our kids to be able to navigate through those challenges, basically our day.
And I like how you said that you do have to work as a team, right? It takes a team
Yeah.
effort.
Oh yeah.
There are so many things. Just social media alone for kids and what they probably have to deal with there is overwhelming.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You've always been dedicated to cancer research, and we at the V Foundation are so thankful for your support, and specifically pediatric cancer research. Take us through back in that time, six years ago, 7 years ago, when you ended up through jersey sales raising $1 million for cancer research. You had the whole league behind you. You had the whole sporting world behind you. What did that support mean? Second part of that question too, just how important is research to ending cancer as we know it?
Yeah, it was truly amazing to see how everybody came to support our family as we were going through that battle. Because I know if we didn't have the support, I'm not sure we would have been able to make it through it, because it was one of the hardest times we ever been through in our life. But we wanted to use our platform not to just garner a bunch of support for our family, but to garner support for the childhood cancer community in general. And when the Bengals decided to sell my jersey and donate the money to cancer research, it really gave a purpose to our pain. We realized that we were having the impact that we wanted to have. When I went public with Leah's story, I didn't do it for sympathy. I did it because there were nights in the hospital I was speaking to families and people didn't really know the struggle, right? The outside world didn't know the struggle of what happens inside those hospitals. And I knew as a professional athlete that I could use my platform to really give a voice to the voiceless. And it really just took off. I never expected it to do what it did, but I'm glad it did, because now we were able to raise so much awareness and money for research, which is extremely important because we need to come up with different ways that we can fight off cancer so we can give our children, not just our children, but adults, give our children a chance to grow up and experience in life, and then even adults giving them more experience in life, or being able to watch their grandchildren grow up and be able to share those moments with their family members. So being able to make sure we're pouring money into research so scientists and doctors can continue to go out there and do the work that is necessary in order to save lives is important, just as much as it is to think about the immediate needs of families who are battling cancer. I know for us, um, we were in a blessed situation where I was in the NFL and I didn't have to worry about, where I was going to find money to pay for my bills or how I was going to afford treatment, or even put her inside of a clinical trial, which a lot of people don't have access to do. So being able to support families with household bills such as their mortgages, car payments, so that they can focus on their child, champion their child through the disease, is just as important as the cancer research.
You mentioned too just how tough it was for you, but also the other families. So you did spend a lot of time talking with other families going
Yeah.
through the similar experience.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of my main focal points, because when I first went to the hospital, I would notice that a lot of the families, parents, when they walked in the hallways, they walked with their heads down. They really didn't talk to one another. And whenever I would go to the family room, which was a place where you would be able to heat up your food in a microwave, or just get out of the room for a little bit and watch TV, I would talk to parents because I knew that they had a wealth of knowledge. They were in the hospital before me. They knew what this journey was like. They knew what to expect in ways that doctors couldn't tell me. So I would open up conversations with those families, and they would really just open up to me and really share some of the experiences that they had that better prepared me for their journey, but it also let me understand the needs that families had and how I can use my platform to better serve them.
And like anything, just talking with other people, it helps. I'm
Yeah.
sure
Oh
it
yeah.
helped them, and it helps you. So you
Yeah,
need that.
definitely. When you know that you're not alone, it makes the journey a lot easier.
That's it. Describe that moment when you found out that Leah was cancer free.
Yeah, man, it was obviously a life changing moment, because her battle with cancer was really a roller coaster. It was a journey with a lot of ups and downs, and initially it was a lot of downs, where we had initially put Leah in a clinical trial, which was called an MIBG, which is a radiation therapy that was for neuroblastoma, and I thought it was going to be the treatment that was going to save her life because the doctors was really high on it. And after about 4 months of high dosage chemo and 5 days of it radiation where she had to be locked in a room by herself, we were hopeful when we went in for her scans. Although we was nervous and we suffered from skin anxiety, like a lot of families suffer from as they go in for their scans, we were hopeful that we were going to get good news. But unfortunately, we didn't. We found out the cancer had spread all over her body, that it had went from just being in her adrenal gland, which is in her abdomen, to now it was in her leg, her chest, her arms, her neck, her back, and it was even in her skull. And if there was ever a moment in which I thought my daughter was going to die, it was in that moment. But I've always been taught since I was playing sports, since I started playing sports when I was 13, that you got to give it everything you have for 4 quarters, no matter how tired you are, no matter how much pain you're in. And I just sat down and I had a conversation with my daughter, like, listen, I know we were expecting different results, and you fought as hard as you could. This is no fault of your own. But as long as you're alive, as long as I'm alive, we're going to continue to fight until there's no more time left on the clock. And it was amazing because that week a new clinical trial had came out called CH1418, which is an antibody therapy. And we elected to put her into that new clinical trial. 2 months after her being in that trial, um, we had to go back in for scans. And this time I wasn't as hopeful as I was before, because I didn't want to get let down like I did before. So I was just willing to take whatever news that we were going to get. So we took her in to get her scans done. The doctor told us it was going to be a couple of days before we got the results. So we left the hospital. It was about a 10-minute drive back to our condo in Philadelphia. And when we pulled up outside the condo, my phone rang and I saw it was the hospital, and like my heart dropped because I'm like, what are they calling for? Like, you told me it was going to be 2 to 3 days before we got the results back. you called me 10 minutes later. And when I answered the phone, it was her doctor on the other end, and she told me that she had some news that she couldn't wait to share with me. And she told me that they had a meeting and they all looked at Leah's scans and there was no evidence of disease. And it was just like, man, like it's crazy because from the moment that she got diagnosed with cancer, I always wondered what it would be like to get that news. I always dreamt about that moment, and it superseded it, right? I just dropped the phone and I looked back at Leah and she was like, Dad, what's wrong? Did I beat cancer? And to be able to sit there and tell her, yeah, and just be able to hug, it was an amazing feeling.
Really is, and that shows you the power of science. And in that case,
Hmm.
that clinical trial worked.
Yeah.
What does it say about Leah's spirit, and as Jimmy V would say, her ability to not ever give up? Like you said, you play all four quarters. Like Jimmy V said, you don't ever give up, and she did that. She
Right.
powered through it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we had to learn was to detach ourselves from the outcome and just focus on the journey. Because I think sometimes we take ownership over an outcome that's not really guaranteed for us, and when we don't reach that outcome, that's when we really lose hope. We lose faith. But when you learn to just say, you know what, I'm going to control the controllables. I can't control the results of the test. I can't control the results of how this treatment is going to go, but I can approach it with a certain type of attitude that'll help me get to the goal that I'm trying to get. And if I get it, then great. If not, I'm just going to continue to try.
At the 2015 ESPYS, you were honored with the Jimmy V Award for Perseverance. What did that honor mean for you? What was it like that night to be on that stage?
It was really just a job well done. Um, it made me see because there were so many times where I wanted to give up when I was in Cincinnati because it was a struggle being 500 miles away from my daughter so that I can have the insurance to pay for her treatment. And I was traveling back and forth every single week to make sure that I was there to let her know that I loved her because at 4 years old, I don't think that she really understood why daddy wasn't there. She just knew that I want my dad there and he's not there. So I had to show up and be present as much as possible and try to get her to understand the sacrifice that I was really making for her. And being in front of the camera all the time and really going through those emotions was tough because as a man, it's already hard enough to really express your emotion or even internalize what you're feeling inside. And having to go through that in real time in front of the world to see was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. But I was trying to be as vulnerable as possible to show other families who are going through it that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to talk about what you're going through. And when we received that award, it was just like I said, a job well done. That it was worth all the pain that we went through. It was worth all the uncomfortability that I experienced by sharing our story with the world, and it just gave us a stage to really amplify the message that we were trying to give to other families who were battling cancer.
And your strength and the ability to not only think about what you and your family and Leah had to deal with, but other families going through it. That was consistent throughout.
Yeah.
Where did you find that strength to just not just think about yourself and your family, but beyond?
Yeah, because I understood the moment you stop doing things for yourself and you put yourself a part of a collective movement, one that impacts things outside of the self, then you're willing to go through things you wouldn't necessarily go through if it was just for you. And I really learned that from sports, just all the injuries that I faced at Penn State. My first couple of years there was a lot of times I wanted to give up on my goal of getting to the NFL. But like I told you earlier, I really did it in order to get my family out of the situation that I grew up in. And the moment that I took that approach, when it was like, look, this is not about me reaching my childhood dream, but a lot of my family, a lot of people's going to be impacted by the decisions I make. I found a drive that I didn't know existed. And I knew that if I really opened up and I did this not for just my family or for my daughter who was battling cancer, but if I did it for all the families who were battling childhood cancer, then I would find the drive that would keep me going in the moments where I wanted to give up.
It's amazing. And Another person who has not been afraid to be open and honest and have that armor down is Dick Vitale, who's going to be this year's
Mhm.
honoree at the ESPYS. What's your message for Dickie V? Is he'll take the stage there in July to accept his honor as the Jimmy V winner, 30 years almost after taking his own friend up to that stage.
Just to enjoy the moment. Dick Vitale, he's done so much for the fight against cancer. I remember, I think it was the second year that Leah was battling cancer. We went down to one of his events in Florida with another friend of ours, Lauren Hill, who we actually met in Cincinnati, who was battling brain cancer. And unfortunately, she succumbed to cancer, but her parents were down there, and we had a chance to reconnect with them and just to see how much the cancer community is impacted by the work that Dick Vitale did. That was really motivated by seeing what his friend went through. It's an amazing thing, and he deserves the recognition for the unselfish act that he took to really continue this fight against cancer, and recognizing that there are other people out there. There are other people with friends who are battling cancer. He wanted to do everything he could to make sure that they still had a chance to have their friend around.
Yeah, it'll be quite a night and quite a weekend coming up in August. You
Right.
will be the co-host of the V Foundation's 24th wine celebration in Napa Valley, and you'll be co-hosting with Coach K. And you guys have a great bond and kind of rapport. So take us through that, what it's like to host with Coach K, and then also the event in general, and obviously the impact it's had on raising money for cancer research.
Yes, I'm extremely excited to take the stage with Coach K. He's always been somebody that I looked up to. Not a lot of people know, but I wanted to play basketball when I was growing up. I wanted to make it to the NBA, but I got too big. So I would watch Duke all the time when I was growing up. And Coach K was a big thing in my household. So to be able to share a stage with him is going to be amazing. It's going to be a lot of fun because although we're there for a very important cause to raise money for cancer research, we want people to walk away knowing that they had a good time, like feeling like they had a good time. And I think that's what me and Coach K are going to try to do that night. Like you said, you address the importance of the night in the moment. Last year was special. I've been to a lot of events for cancer research, but that whole weekend in Napa Valley, it was truly transformational because you saw people really cared. Like it was people from all different backgrounds, right? Who just was coming together for one common goal. And you can tell that they all cared about supporting people who were battling cancer and finding cures for people who were battling cancer. And I can't wait to get back. I'm hoping we break the record that we set last year for a fundraising goal, because the work that we're doing, the work that the V Foundation is doing, the work that the wine celebration is doing is very important work, and they're saving lives.
For sure. What was your favorite part of last year's event, or favorite parts? And then what are you looking forward to this year? Like you said, it's a tremendous meeting of a number of people, supporters, researchers, um, scientists who've spent their whole career in the fight against cancer. And they all come in one place here for this weekend. So it is quite a mix that you don't really see anywhere else.
For me, it was definitely the dinner with the docs, because I think anytime you can have a meeting of the minds, that's when you really get those advancements that you need in the medical field. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the work that they have been doing in this past year, different things that they've been able to advance, and just hearing how we can all work collectively to continue this fight against cancer. And then I'm going to be hosting it this year, which is going to be different. So I'm really looking forward to making that a fun event.
For sure. And the funding need for this year's event is early detection. With the pandemic, less people, of course, were going to the doctor. Less people were being proactive. As a result, it's estimated 25% fewer cancers were detected in the last 2 years due to missed screening appointments.
Right.
So, a great funding need in place for this year's event. How important is it to be on top of your own health, be an advocate, and make sure if you notice something is off to get it checked out.
Yeah. So I think that the theme of this year's event is really important as far as courage, because I know a lot of times it's hard for people to go to the hospital. A lot of times people don't want to find out that something is wrong with them. They'll rather want to think that everything is good with them. But early detection is so important, especially as men. A lot of times, men, we don't like going to the doctors, right? That's why our wives are so necessary, because they force us to go. But men who are married, they end up, being able to catch early detection of certain physical diseases and mental diseases because our wives force us to go to the hospital. But early detection, being able to catch these type of things early on, gives you a greater chance of being able to successfully beat cancer. So early detection is extremely important. Giving people access to health care so that they can go to these doctor visits is extremely important. Finding transportation to the hospital is important, because a lot of times it's not that people don't want to go to the hospitals, that they don't have the resources in order to help them get to the hospital, or they don't have the knowledge about how important it is to go to their doctors to visits in order to get early detection. So by having a focus on this year, I think is going to help a lot of people, be able to be here as long as they can for their family members.
And you mentioned the theme of choose courage. Everyone who's taking part in the event is being asked in one word what choose courage means to them, and then to expand upon that a little bit. And I know you've shared this already, but for the podcast audience here, what does choose courage mean to you?
Only got one word to tell you?
One word, and then you can expand upon it.
For me, it really is just bravery. Courage to me is bravery. Courage is the virtue, and bravery is the strength, the character strength. And I think a lot of times people can confuse courage with being fearless. But it's really not. I think courage is really understanding that you're scared, understanding the threats that are around you, and still deciding to go forward. Um, I was so fearful when my daughter was battling cancer. I was scared that she was going to lose her life. I was scared that I wasn't going to have the chance to watch her grow up. I was scared that of what possibly losing her would do to me and my mental health. But despite those fears, we decided to push forward. I always tell people courage is understanding that, you know, fears in the car with you as you're traveling to whatever destination that you're going to, but you're not allowing it to control the steering wheel, right? That the courage controls the steering wheel, and you just continue to push forward despite the fears that you may have.
Well, wonderfully said, and I think it'll be an inspiring event for many reasons, and that's one of them. Just to hear what choose courage means to everyone, and we appreciate you sharing what it means to you. You inspire so many as well through speaking engagements throughout the year, through the content you're sharing on your website, social media properties. Take us through Still in the Game and its mission and vision and purpose, and the work you're doing through that.
Yeah, so the reason why I started Still in the Game is because I wanted to give people the tools in order to get off the sidelines and get into the game. Um, I think the path that one takes in life is really made up of the different experiences that they have throughout their life, and sometimes the negative experiences that we go through can cause certain levels of stress. And if we don't really have the tools in order to cope with the stressors and the stressful life events that we face in our lives, it can have a adverse outcome as we become adults. They become, physical health issues. They become mental health issues. So my mission is truly to be able to provide parents right now, institutions and communities with the tools to help children rise above stressful life events. And, for me, what rise means is just teaching children how to be more resilient, teaching them about intelligence and a growth mindset, the ability to know that if with, passion and perseverance, you're able to achieve things that you never thought that you could achieve. It's teaching them their character strengths, such as courage, and how they can use those character strengths in order to navigate this world and really achieve certain goals they have. It's about executive functioning, teaching, parents how they can teach their kids how to be not be impulsive, right? To be able to set certain goals and how they can achieve their goals. And then the last one in Rise is just teaching ethics. I think that, like I said earlier before, that is no point of being goal driven if you're not value driven, because if you just focus on your goals all the time, you're willing to do whatever it takes to reach your goals. Sometimes you step out of bounds in order to do that, you can lose it. But if you allow your morals and ethics to really drive you to your goals, then you'll be able to really enjoy it, because you know that you didn't have to thwart somebody else's growth in order to, reach your full potential.
And you talk a lot about growth mindset and the power of positivity, right? As
Right.
parents, even evaluating how often, with the words coming out of our mouth, are we being positive
Yeah.
versus not.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of times people confuse positivity with Pollyanna, where you just ignore all the negativity that's going on. But I think true positivity is recognizing the negativity that's going around, but reprogramming your mind to see the positive. Because uh, innately we see the negative because for so long it was beneficial to us, especially with our ancestors trying to survive in the wilderness, but it doesn't really serve us any good, especially when you're a parent or when you're trying to navigate this world if all you look at is the negativity. But when you're able to spot the little pieces of positivity that are out here in the world, it can create, the positive emotions that we need in this life, the positive relationships. It can help us find meaning in some of the most stressful times, like a family member battling cancer, and all those things are extremely important in being able to reach our highest potential in life.
So important. Obviously, a lot of what we're talking about today is health, and health is just as much physical as it is mental. You need everything, right, to be
Yeah.
healthy, and the power of positive thinking is right there. And as you mentioned, there's stressors, and then there's tools. You need the tools to deal with those stressors and get through the day. And it's not easy, but I think the
No.
advice you're sharing helps everyone.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts? We've covered a number of topics today, but any final thoughts, for those listening, of a key message that you want to make sure they remember, and obviously you are, setting the path and inspiring so many, and continue to do that. And so we thank you for that. But any final thoughts?
Yeah, for me, it's just really to put out there that we talked about courage being the choice to continue to push forward despite your fears, um, but especially for people who are actually going through their battle with cancer, choosing courage also means to sometimes allow yourself to have weak moments. I try to tell people all the time there's a difference between a weak moment and a weak mindset. A weak moment is where there's times where you just want to cry, you just want to sit in bed, you don't want to do anything, and it's okay to allow yourself to have those moments. But never allow it to turn into a weak mindset where you feel like you're not strong enough or you're not capable in order to overcome that. I think that Stuart Scott said it best, that when you can't fight, then just rest and allow the people around you to fight for you. And that's part of courage. Being able to trust your loved ones, being able to trust your team in order to help you during the times where you just don't feel like doing it. So there's two parts of courage. There's one, continuing to fight, and there's sometimes where choosing courage is, look, you know what, I'm going to allow myself to rest and get my mind right and allow the people around me to fight for me and advocate for me.
Well, Devin, thank you so much for taking the time today. We really appreciate it. Look forward to the wine celebration, August 4th through the 7th in Napa Valley. Some great sponsors: ESPN, Jam Cellars, Nickel, Single Vineyard Wines, Bentley Motors, Steven Silver Fine Jewelry, Constellation Brands. There's good food and good wine at this event, right? So it's going to be a great
Oh yeah, I can't wait for the wine. I know my wife can't really enjoy it because she's pregnant, but I
time.
can, so I'm gonna drink enough for her.
Exactly. Well, thanks again, Devin. We wish you the best, and look forward to seeing you in August. Should be fun.
Uh, thank you. I was glad to join you today.